What if I told you that 97% of all money in existence is just numbers on a computer screen? That banks are legally allowed to take your $1,000 deposit and turn it into $10,000 out of thin air. And that's since March 2020. They're not even required to keep any of your actual money in reserve. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is exactly how the banking system works. And in 2023, when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed overnight, millions of people learned this truth the hard way. Their money gone. Just numbers that disappeared. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your money was never actually safe in the first place. And more importantly, you'll know what you can do about it. Let me explain. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to a time before banks even existed. Imagine you're a farmer 500 years ago. You need a new tool, maybe an axe or a plow. So, you go to the local tool maker to buy one, but you don't have anything to give him in return. So instead, you both just agree that you owe him something in the future. A promise. And I owe you. Because the toolmaker trusts you, your promise becomes an acceptable form of payment. 2 weeks later, you come back with food from your farm, and the debt is settled. This worked fine for small communities, but as trade expanded, people needed something more universal, something everyone valued. Enter gold and silver coins. These were perfect, small, valuable, and they lasted forever. Suddenly, you could trade with anyone, anywhere. You didn't need trust, you had gold. But here's where things started to change. Traveling with gold was heavy and dangerous. Thieves were everywhere. So in 17th century, London, people started bringing their gold to goldsmiths, trusted craftsmen who would store it for a small fee. In return, the goldsmith gave you a piece of paper, a promise note. This paper said you could come back anytime and claim your gold. The key was that you could go to any goldsmith in any town and exchange that paper for the same amount of gold. The paper itself had no value, but it was as good as gold. Actually, it was better than gold because it was lighter and safer to carry. And this is where the entire modern banking system was born. Because the goldsmiths realized something. Most people weren't actually coming back to get their gold. So they started doing something clever. And by clever, I mean completely insane. They started writing fake promise notes. Notes that weren't backed by any gold at all. If a goldsmith had 100 gold coins in his vault, he'd write promise notes for 200 coins, or 300, or more. He'd lend these fake notes to people, charge interest, and make a profit. And as long as everyone didn't show up at the same time demanding their gold, no one would know. This was the birth of fractional reserve banking, the system we still use today. Except now, instead of goldsmiths, we have banks, and instead of promise notes, we have digital numbers on a screen. Here's how fractional reserve banking actually works. Let's say you walk into a bank and deposit $1,000 now. You think the bank stores that money in a vault somewhere, right? That it's your money, sitting there, safe and sound. Wrong. The bank is only required to keep a fraction of it. Let's say 10%. That's $100. The other $900, they can lend it out to someone else. So person A borrows $900 from the bank and immediately spends it. Let us say they buy a laptop from person B. Person B now has $900. What do? They deposit it in the bank. Now the bank takes that $900, keeps 10% $90 and loans out the rest, $810. Person C borrows that $810, spends it, and person D deposits it back into the bank. The cycle continues. Here's the insane part. That original $1,000 you deposited. Through this process, it became $10,000 in the economy. $9,000 created out of thin air. Just invented, typed into existence. This is called the monetary multiplier effect. Some people call it the infinite money glitch. And it's not illegal. It's not a scam. Well, it is a scam, but it's a legal scam. This is exactly how the system is designed to work. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but they keep 10% in reserve, so there's some safety net. Right, wrong again. Here's the part that'll blow your mind. On March 26, 2020, the Federal Reserve, the central bank that controls the entire US banking system, reduced reserve requirements to 0%. Let me say that again, 0%. Banks are no longer required to hold any of your deposits. Not 10%, not 1%, 0. So, when you deposit $1,000 today, the bank doesn't have to keep $100. They don't have to keep $10. They can lend out every single cent and create even more money on top of it. Your money, it's just a number on a screen, backed by absolutely nothing. And this isn't some fringe conspiracy website claiming this. This is straight from the Federal Reserve's own website. You can look it up right now. Effective March 26, 2020, the board reduced reserve requirement ratios on all net transaction accounts to 0%. 0%. So the next time you check your bank account and see a number, remember, that number is not money sitting in a vault with your name on it. It's a promise that if you want your money, the bank will give it to you. But what happens when everyone wants their money at the same time? Now let's talk about the part that should make you angry. Banks don't just create money out of thin air. They profit from it, at your expense. Here's how. Let's say you deposit $10,000 in a savings account. The bank pays you 0.5% interest. Maybe 1% if you're lucky. That's $50 a year. But then the bank takes your $10,000, creates $90,000 in loans out of thin air, and charges 7% interest on those loans. That's $6,300 a year they're making. You provided the original $10,000. You took the risk of trusting them with your money. And you get $50 while they get $6,300. Oh, and here's the kicker. They charge you a monthly maintenance fee for the privilege of letting them use your money to get rich. Let that sink in. You give them money. They multiply it by 10. They make thousands in interest, and you pay them for the service. This is the scam they don't want you to understand. And it gets even worse, because all of this newly created money, it doesn't just sit there. It drives up prices. It causes inflation. It makes everything more expensive. The money in your savings account is losing value every single day, while the banks are using it to create more money and charge you interest on the money THEY created. It's brilliant, diabolical, and completely legal. So what happens when this system breaks? Well, we've seen it twice in the last 15 years. In 2008, banks made so many risky loans backed by nothing. Loans they KNEW would never be paid back that when people started defaulting, the entire system nearly collapsed. The government had to step in and bail them out. $700 billion of taxpayer money to save the banks that caused the crisis. In the first place, did you get bailed out? No. You lost your job, your house, your retirement savings. But the banks? They got a check from the government. And in 2023, it happened again. Silicon Valley Bank, the 16th largest bank in America, collapsed overnight. Why? Because they didn't actually have the money. When tech startups started pulling out their deposits all at once, SVB ran out of cash. The bank had invested deposits in long-term bonds that had lost value. And when everyone wanted their money back at the same time, the bank couldn't pay billions of dollars. Gone in a single day. Now, here's the scary part. The FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, only insures up to $250,000 per account. So if you had more than that in SVB, you were out of luck. One person I read about had withdrawn over $640,000 from their bank account because they knew the FDIC would cover it all if the bank failed. They were right. The whole system is built on a promise, a collective agreement that we all pretend is real. And when everyone tries to cash in that promise at once, it breaks. So, what does this mean for you? First, understand that your bank account is not a safe. It's a promise, and that promise is only guaranteed up to $250,000. If you have more than that in one bank, you need to diversify immediately. Open accounts at multiple banks. Each account is separately insured. Second, don't keep all your wealth in cash or bank accounts. The system is designed to erode the value of your money through inflation. Consider holding some assets outside the banking system entirely. Physical gold, treasury bonds, real estate, things that can't be created out of thin air with a few keystrokes. Third, understand the game. Banks make money by creating money. You make money by working for it. Those are two completely different systems. The more you understand how money actually works, the better you can protect yourself when the system inevitably cracks again. And it will crack, because it's built on trust, leverage, and promises. And trust can disappear overnight. Look, I am not saying pull all your money out of the bank tomorrow and bury gold in your backyard. That's not realistic for most people. But what I am saying is this: be aware, be informed, and don't assume the system is safer than it actually is. Because when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, the people who understood the system saw it coming. They pulled their money out in time. The people who trusted the system, they lost everything. This is how banks actually work. Not the sanitized version they teach in economics classes. Not the PR-friendly explanation you get from your bank. The real system. A system where 97% of money is digital. Where banks create trillions of dollars out of nothing. Where your deposits are backed by promises instead of reserves. Where the Federal Reserve eliminated reserve requirements entirely in 2020, and nobody said a word. Now that you know the truth, you can't unknow it. The question is, what are you going to do about it? If you want to understand more about how the financial system really works, I've got a video coming on the Federal Reserve, because once you realize who actually controls the banks and how they manipulate the entire economy, everything changes. Drop a comment below and tell me, did this shock you? Or did you already know banks were running the biggest legal scam in history? And if you made it this far, hit that subscribe button, because this channel is dedicated to exposing the truths they don't want you to know, one video at a time. I'll see you in the next one.